Today on Revisited, I want you to think of the sun. I want you to think of magnificent beaches, of palm trees, of luxury hotels. I want you to think of Acapulco. Nicknamed the Pearl of the Pacific, the city became the place to go for the rich and famous in the 1950s. Elizabeth Taylor, Frank Sinatra, JFK, Brigitte Bardot all enjoyed its white sands and magnificent scenery. All that still exists, but within a few metres, mainly in working-class neighbourhoods, lies one of the most violent cities in the world. It is a recent phenomenon, the violence only exploding after the Mexican drug lord Arturo Beltran-Leyva was killed in 2009 by security forces. It sparked a struggle for control of Acapulco's profitable drug market among rival gangs. Since then, dozens of beheaded bodies have been found, even some mass executions. Well, Acapulco is trying to rebuild its former reputation for tourism, but it's an uphill struggle. Earlier this year, gunmen burst into a rented house near the city, spent several hours raping 6 Spanish women and tying up their male companions. Amongst the violence, though, the people of Acapulco, well, they continue to live their lives. Alphonse Van Cat's Laurence Cavillier and Mathieu Comin have been to meet them. Here's their report.
La Quebrada in Acapulco is one of the most famous and deadliest cliffs in the world. It is 35 meters high, but there are jagged rocks just 3 meters below the shallow water. Under the gaze of the tourists come to see them, Brian and Alexis prepare to dive. Faith comes in handy before leaping into the void. Brian is only 14 years old.
Hello, welcome. We hope you enjoyed the show.
A tip for the divers, if you please.
After the show, the young athletes ask for tips from the tourists. But these are no longer the wealthy Americans of 20 years ago.
I'm here, Mom.
Brian is applauded every day on the cliff, but there's nothing glamorous about his life away from the crowds. Home is one room made from sheet metal and cement, which he shares with 6 people.
That's where my grandmother and my sisters sleep. And there at the back, that's my bedroom. That's my bed there.
Brian has to combine school and diving, which is his family's main source of income. 200 euros a month to feed everyone and his dreams of stardom.
His dream is to become a great diver and to compete in the Olympic Games. Here, young people use a lot of drugs. There's a lot of vandalism. So I would prefer it if he completely committed himself to sport, so he becomes a good person.
In 5 years, Acapulco has become a center of uncontrollable violence. At least 17 criminal groups are waging a bloody battle and each year recruit hundreds of teenagers. On the cliff, Brian feels safe from it all.
The one I like the most is this one. I marked my position well, and you can see the ocean behind me.
Between the 1950s and 80s, Acapulco became the Pearl of the Pacific. The biggest stars were drawn to its bay. Liz Taylor, John Wayne, Kevin Costner. They sang of its beauty and its sweet lifestyle. Today, tourism has collapsed because of organized crime. For Brian and Alexis, the world of restaurants and big hotels is almost from another planet.
It's like a postcard. That's what we have here. The beaches, a nice place, a quiet atmosphere to relax in.
But the hotel zone is also affected by the gangrene of crime. Not far from here, just a few weeks ago, a body was found cut into pieces in the trunk of a car, the revenge message from a criminal group. After a good tip, the 2 divers decide to treat themselves to some tacos on the beach.
There you go. Do you need anything else? Enjoy.
Eric is a restaurant and nightclub owner. He moved to Acapulco 5 years ago and immediately fell in love with the city.
Acapulco is mesmerizing. It's a magical city.
But he hadn't been there long before crime became uncontrollable. Despite the consequences, he stood firm.
The situation was critical. Regarding the nightlife, attendance was down 90%. So we said, what do we do? We must do something.
He met local entrepreneurs to start a huge promotion campaign for the city. Today, tourists are slowly coming back to Acapulco, but many celebrated night spots and hotels have not survived. The Hotel Los Flamingos was a haven for Hollywood stars. At the entrance, the famous former residents are displayed like trophies.
Maureen O'Sullivan, Johnny Weissmuller. Tarzan and the Apes, 1951.
Today, there are no clients on the terrace. We only saw a couple of newlyweds come to immortalize their union before the stunning views.
Nowadays, it's mostly national and not international tourists.
There is a brand new area that attracts all new Acapulqueños, the Diamond Zone. There are luxury condos on the beachfront, worth between $800,000 and $2 million each. Thousands of them, yet the beach remains desolately empty.
It's a very high socio-economic level. These are people who buy the apartments to spend their weekends or holidays in. The Diamond Zone is empty all the time, except for the high season.
The city is struggling to wake from a lethargic sleep. The modest neighborhood where Brian and Alexis live never attracted tourists. Neither have they been victims of this crisis. On the contrary, their living conditions have gradually improved over the years.
Before, here, there was nothing but wood cabins with tin roofs. Today, we all have permanent homes.
Everything seems quiet, but despite the new image, organized crime is never far away. Last year, a man was killed just outside the door to Brian's school.
We heard the shooting. It happened in the morning. It was no more than 5 or 7 meters away from the school. The policemen and the teachers, they didn't let us leave because they didn't want us to see what had happened.
Training for hours every day, diving deep into their passion. This is the best remedy they have found against this trivialization of violence.
The moment you jump, you go into your own world. You fall in the water, and that brings you back to the real world. Going back up, it all comes back to your mind. This and that is happening. The only moment where you can really forget everything is in focusing before you dive.
La Quebrada and the sound of waves. This is the place where Paco comes between reports to find peace. In his work, he has witnessed close up the downward spiral of his city. He also knows the Acapulco where it rains sometimes. The poor neighborhoods where the money doesn't arrive. But organized crime arrived there a long time ago.
In this zone, the wholesale market for Acapulco, there's a lot of extortion and murder. Right there, where you see a woman selling corn on the cobs, they killed a saleswoman only 3 months ago. According to her family, it was because she hadn't paid the extortion money.
The Zapata district averages 1 murder per day. Paco lives nearby, so to work, he has had to learn to be discreet.
Most people don't know I'm a journalist. This is for security reasons. We prefer to remain anonymous. Certain people may be annoyed by our work. It's not very rewarding to take photographs of someone who was killed.
Paco and Maria have 3 children who they prefer to keep away from the camera. It is not uncommon for criminals to prey on the families of annoying journalists.
It's a bit stressful. Our children know what their father does, but we don't talk about it.
Maria has had to get used to seeing her husband leave at any time of day or night for a dangerous murder zone. Every day, Paco goes to the morgue because they're often the first ones notified in case of a crime.
Hello, anything to report today?
About what?
Were they able to identify some of the bodies?
No, we only received one unidentified body, nothing else.
At the entrance, a chapel with pictures of the recently disappeared.
It's the people themselves who leave these pictures here, just in case the staff recognize them or find clues.
In the evening, the police told Paco about a crime scene. A man had been beaten to death in a poor part of the city. He had just gone out to buy some tacos. Paco tries to find some clues.
Look, apparently he was married. He has a wedding ring.
But this time, the relatives are already there. The body has been identified.
You see, the police keep people away to protect the clues in the crime scene.
However, journalists approach without caution. Only one dead person that evening. What Paco calls a calm day. Some days he has covered up to 8 murders. In the face of constant danger, civil society has had to organize itself. In autumn 2011, all the city schools went on strike. The teachers demanded more security within the schools. The strike lasted for 2 months. Today, security at Bryan's High School has been tightened. A surveillance camera at the entrance, and above all, a panic button in the principal's office. It allows the police to be alerted very quickly in case there is a problem.
This is our panic button. Until now, thank God we haven't had to use it.
The timetables were also changed so that students could leave school earlier.
I get a little scared when I go out. It gets dark really quickly this time of year, and with all this violence, it makes me a little nervous.
Bryan has a 40-minute bus ride back home. He always keeps his phone at hand to ease his mother's concerns if he takes too long. Last week, criminals set fire near here to a bus, after first locking the chauffeur and his assistant inside. Night falls on a city that still wants to believe in its charms. The sweet life that once existed in this former fishing village will probably return one day. As their heads surface above water, Bryan and Alexis hope that one day they will return to a reality that will soothe their hearts.
We can but hope. Life for those in Acapulco, one of the most beautiful but violent cities in the world. Well, that's all from today's Revisited. More editions coming up, of course. Stay tuned for that here on France 24.